You didn't wake up tired because you need more sleep. You woke up tired because the moment your eyes opened, your brain flooded with every unsolved problem, every fear you've been avoiding, every conversation that drained you yesterday, and the weight of a life you're not sure you're winning. That heaviness in your chest, that's not your body failing you. That's your mind rehearsing failure before the day has even begun. You've been starting every morning on the defensive, and you don't even realize it. The first thought you allow into your head becomes the filter for everything that follows. If your first thought is "I'm exhausted," your entire day will search for evidence to prove you right. If your first thought is "I've got too much to do," your nervous system will lock into survival mode before you've even brushed your teeth. And here's the truth no one tells you. You are not a victim of your morning. You are the architect of it. But you've handed the blueprints to your old wounds, your past disappointments, and a phone that feeds you chaos before your feet touch the floor. That stops today. Not because motivation is magic, because the science is clear, the psychology is settled, and the people who rise differently have one thing in common. They fight for the first hour of their day like their life depends on it. Because it does. So here's the question you need to sit with before we go any further. What would change if, for the next 30 mornings, you refused to let your first thought be a weapon against yourself? Section 1. The pain you've been calling normal, let's name it. That feeling you have right now, the low-level dread that lives under your skin, the sense that you're always catching up but never arriving. You've learned to call it stress. You've learned to call it adult life. You've learned to medicate it with coffee, with scrolling, with staying busy so you don't have to sit in the silence where the real thoughts live. But that feeling isn't normal. It's not a personality trait. It's not just who you are. That feeling is the result of thousands of small choices you've made about where to place your attention, and those choices have become a loop so tight you don't even see the walls anymore. Think about your average morning. Alarm goes off. Maybe you snooze it once, twice, 3 times. The first voice you hear isn't your own. It's the ping of notifications, the headlines designed to trigger outrage, the emails that demand something from you before you've even given anything to yourself. You reach for the phone like it's oxygen, and within 90 seconds, your brain has been hijacked by comparison, by bad news, by the manufactured urgency of other people's priorities. Your cortisol spikes, your heart rate changes, and you haven't even sat up yet. This isn't weakness. This is neurology. Your brain is designed to scan for threats, and you just handed it a fire hose of them before you took a single conscious breath. Here, what that costs you. Every time you start your day in reaction mode, you strengthen a neural pathway called the default mode network. That's the part of your brain responsible for mind-wandering, self-referential thoughts, and rumination. When you wake up and immediately consume, your default mode network activates the parts of your brain that worry about the past and rehearse the future. You become physically present but mentally absent. You walk through your morning routine on autopilot, brushing teeth, making coffee, getting dressed, while your inner monologue runs a loop of everything you should have done differently yesterday and everything you're afraid of today. That's not living. That's surviving. And surviving is not the same as being alive. The pain you've been calling normal has a name. It's called learned helplessness. You've had so many mornings where things felt heavy, where you felt behind, where the day defeated you before noon, that your brain stopped believing there was another way. Your brain created a prediction. Morning equals struggle. And because your brain loves to be right, it will filter every experience to confirm that prediction. You'll find evidence of struggle in a spilled drink, in a delayed train, in a coworker's tone of voice. None of those things are the problem. The problem is the filter. The problem is that you've been practicing misery every morning for so long that misery feels like home. But here's what most people never realize. Your brain is also capable of something called neuroplasticity. The same neural pathways that learn to expect struggle can learn to expect peace. The same habit loops that start your day with anxiety can be rewired to start your day with intention. It takes repetition. It takes discomfort. It takes you doing something different when every fiber of your being wants to reach for the phone, wants to stay in bed, wants to retreat into the familiar pain. But you can do it, not because you're special, because you're human, and this is how every human brain works. The only question is whether you'll direct the change or let the change direct you. Let me ask you something uncomfortable. How many mornings have you wasted? How many dawns have you watched from behind a screen or through half-closed eyes or with a sigh that said, "Here we go again"? How many days have you started already defeated, then spent the next 12 hours trying to catch up to a version of yourself that never even showed up? You don't owe that to anyone. Not to your boss, not to your family, not to the endless demands of a world that will take everything you give it and ask for more. You owe yourself a different beginning, not because it's easy. Because you've done easy. Easy gave you this. Easy gave you the heaviness. Easy gave you the numbness. The pain you've been calling normal is actually your soul screaming for a different rhythm. It's not depression, though depression can live there. It's not laziness, though laziness is an easy label to throw at yourself. It's disconnection. You've become disconnected from the first moments of your own existence. You've outsourced the opening scene of your day to algorithms and alarm clocks and obligations. And when you outsource your beginning, you outsource your entire life. Because how you start anything is how you do everything. How you start your morning is how you start your relationships, your work, your fitness, your dreams. If you start reactive, you live reactive. If you start defeated, you live defeated. So here's the challenge, and I want you to feel the weight of it. Tomorrow morning, before you touch your phone, before you speak a single word to anyone, before you check anything, you will sit up in bed and you will take 30 seconds to breathe. Not meditate for an hour. Not recite affirmations you don't believe. Just 30 seconds of breathing where you feel your lungs expand and your ribs move and your heart settle. That's it. That's the first act of war against the pain you've been calling normal. Can you do that? Or have you already decided that 30 seconds is too much to ask from someone who has 300,000 seconds in this day to spend on everyone else? Section 2. The truth about your first 5 minutes. You think motivation is the answer. It's not. Motivation is a chemical state, a spike of dopamine that feels good and fades fast. You felt motivation 100 times. You've watched the video, read the quote, had the late-night revelation where you swore everything would change tomorrow. And then tomorrow came and the motivation was gone and you were left with the same alarm, the same phone, the same heaviness. That's not a character flaw. That's the difference between dopamine-driven desire and habit-driven identity. One feels like fireworks, the other feels like discipline, and only one of them will save your life. Here's the science your body already knows, but your mind keeps ignoring. Your brain's reward system doesn't care about your goals. It cares about prediction. When you wake up and immediately scroll, your brain releases a tiny hit of dopamine each time you see something novel. A new post, a new message, a new headline. That hit feels good for a fraction of a second, but it trains your brain to expect novelty as the reward for waking up. The problem is that novelty is addictive and empty. You can scroll for an hour and feel less full than when you started. Meanwhile, the dopamine from doing something hard, something intentional, something that requires effort, takes longer to arrive but lasts longer and actually nourishes you. You've just never waited long enough to feel it. The first 5 minutes of your morning are the most chemically significant minutes of your entire day. In those minutes, your brain transitions from sleep to wakefulness through a process called limbic system activation. Your amygdala, the part of your brain that processes fear and emotion, comes online faster than your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for logic and decision-making. That means for the first few minutes of your day, you are biologically primed to be emotional, reactive, and fearful. You are not thinking clearly. You are not making good decisions. You are raw, and whatever you feed that raw state becomes the emotional tone for the hours ahead. So when you grab your phone in those first 5 minutes, you aren't checking messages. You're programming your amygdala with whatever you see. A stressful email becomes a fear response. A social media post of someone living a better life becomes inadequacy. A news headline becomes a threat. You are literally, biologically, wiring your brain for anxiety before you have the cognitive capacity to choose otherwise. And then you spend the rest of the day wondering why you feel on edge, why you can't focus, why everything feels harder than it should. It's not the day, it's the first 5 minutes. The day doesn't start at 9. The day starts the moment your eyes open, but you can hack this. And I don't mean hack in the fluffy self-help sense. I mean you can physically rewire the neural sequence of your morning by changing one thing, what you attend to first. Your brain's reticular activating system acts as a filter. It decides what information is important based on what you've told it to look for. If you wake up and immediately look for problems, your reticular activating system will find problems everywhere. But if you wake up and deliberately look for something else, for breath, for sensation, for a single thought you choose on purpose, your brain recalibrates. It shifts from threat detection mode to presence mode. This isn't positive thinking. This is attentional training. This is Olympic-level mental discipline applied to the most ordinary moment of your day, so let's get practical. When your alarm sounds tomorrow, you are not allowed to move for 10 seconds. Just hear the sound. Let it exist without reacting to it. Then you will sit up. Not throw your legs out wildly, not lunge for the phone. Sit up slowly like you are rising from deep water. Place your feet on the floor. Feel the ground. That act alone, feet on the floor, is a neurological anchor. It tells your body, we are here, we are present, we are not being pulled anywhere yet. Then you will close your eyes and take 3 breaths. Not deep dramatic breaths that make you dizzy. Just 3 normal breaths that you actually feel. The air entering your nostrils, the rise of your chest, the pause at the top, the fall, the pause at the bottom. During those 3 breaths, you will say one sentence to yourself, not a paragraph, not an affirmation you found on Instagram. One sentence that is true and that you choose. Here are examples. I am here. I get to try again today. This breath is mine. I don't have to earn my right to exist. Pick one. Say it in your head. Better yet, whisper it out loud. Your brain processes spoken words differently than thought words. When you speak, you engage motor cortex, auditory cortex, and language centers. You make the thought physical. You make the intention real. Now here's the part that will feel uncomfortable. After those 3 breaths, you will stand up. You will walk to the bathroom or the kitchen or the window, and you will do exactly one small physical thing with full attention. Wash your face and feel the water. Make your bed and notice the texture of the sheets. Open a window and feel the air temperature change on your skin. One thing, 1 minute, fully present, no phone, no music, no podcast, no background noise. Just you and a single physical act done with the kind of attention you would give to something sacred. Because your morning is sacred. You've just been treating it like a waiting room. Most people will read this and think, that's too simple, that won't work. And those people are right for themselves because they have already decided it won't work before trying it. That's the learned helplessness again. But you're going to try it. Not because you believe it will change your life overnight. Because you understand that small, consistent, uncomfortable actions are the only things that have ever changed anyone's life. The person you want to become doesn't have different circumstances. That person has different first 5 minutes. That person has a different relationship with the alarm. That person decided that the cost of staying the same finally became higher than the fear of trying something new. Your action step for tomorrow is not to overhaul your entire morning. It's to win the first 5 minutes. That's it. Win the first 5 minutes and the rest of the day becomes a different game. So here's your question. What are you willing to lose in order to win those 5 minutes? Are you willing to lose the comfort of the snooze button? Are you willing to lose the dopamine hit of the scroll? Are you willing to lose the excuse that you're just not a morning person? Because those aren't truths. Those are habits, and habits can be broken. But only if you decide that who you are becoming matters more than who you have been. Section 3. The shift from reaction to response. There is a moment every single morning that separates the people who drift through life from the people who direct it. It happens in the space between the stimulus and your response. The stimulus is the alarm, the light through the curtains, the sound of traffic, the thought that appears in your mind. Your response is what you do next. Most people collapse that space to 0. Stimulus happens and they react immediately, automatically, unconsciously. They don't choose, they don't pause. They just respond the way they've always responded because that pathway is worn so deep it feels like instinct. But it's not instinct, it's conditioning, and conditioning can be changed. The philosopher Viktor Frankl wrote, "Between stimulus and response there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. You've probably heard that quote before. You might have even nodded along to it. But have you lived it? Have you actually lengthened that space? Have you trained yourself to pause for 1 second, 2 seconds, 5 seconds before you react to anything? Because that pause, that tiny gap, is where your entire life changes. Not in the big decisions, not in the moments of crisis, in the milliseconds of ordinary morning where you decide whether to reach for the phone or reach for your own breath. Here, what happens in that space when you learn to use it? Your amygdala, the fear center, sends a signal that something is happening. Your prefrontal cortex, the decision center, gets a few extra milliseconds to evaluate that signal before you act. In that extra time, you can ask yourself one question. What does this moment need from me? Not what do I want, not what's familiar, but what does this moment need? That question changes everything because it pulls you out of your automatic patterns and into conscious presence. The moment needs you to breathe before you speak. The moment needs you to feel your feet on the floor before you check your email. The moment needs you to be here before you go anywhere else. But you can't learn that skill in the middle of chaos. You have to practice it in the calm. And morning is the calmest chaos you will ever have. Before the demands start, before the notifications pile up, before anyone needs anything from you, you have a window of time where you can practice the art of lengthening that space. This is why morning meditation, even 5 minutes of it, even 2 minutes of it, is not spiritual fluff. It's neurological training. You are teaching your brain that there is another way to respond to the stimulus of being awake. You are building the muscle of choice, and muscles that aren't used atrophy. Muscles that are used grow. Let me tell you something about your self-talk that you need to hear. The voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough, that you're behind, that you're failing, that voice is not the enemy. It's a protective mechanism that learned the wrong lesson somewhere along the way. That voice saw you get hurt or rejected or criticized, and it decided that the best way to keep you safe was to keep you small. It's trying to help. It's just terrible at its job, and you don't need to fight that voice. You need to thank it, and then you need to choose a different voice. The voice of the person you are becoming, the voice that says, I can handle this. The voice that says, I've survived everything so far. The voice that says, I am allowed to take up space. You change that voice by feeding it evidence. Every time you respond instead of react, you give that new voice proof that you are different now. Every time you pause before picking up your phone, every time you breathe before answering a difficult message, every time you choose presence over panic, you are writing a new script. And the old script gets quieter not because you silenced it, but because you stopped listening. Attention is the most valuable resource you have. Where you place your attention, you place your life. Place it on the old voice and you get more of the old life. Place it on the new voice and you get something you've never had before. Real life scenarios will test this. Your boss will send an email that makes your stomach drop. Your partner will say something that triggers an old wound. You'll walk into a meeting where everyone is tense. In those moments, your old conditioning will scream at you to react, to defend, to withdraw, to attack. And you will feel the pull. That pull is not a sign that you're failing. It's a sign that you're human. The victory is not in never feeling the pull. The victory is in feeling the pull and still choosing the pause, still taking one breath before you speak, still asking, what does this moment need from me? And then acting from that answer, not from your fear. Here's your action step for today. Set a timer on your phone for 3 random times during your day. When the timer goes off, stop whatever you're doing. Close your eyes, take one breath, and ask yourself, am I reacting or responding? That's it. No judgment, no need to change anything, just notice. Noticing is the first movement of change. You cannot change what you do not see, so see yourself. Watch yourself like a scientist watching an experiment. Collect data on your own patterns. And then tomorrow morning, use that data. When you feel the urge to react to your alarm, to react to your thoughts, to react to the world before you're ready, remember the data. Remember that reacting has never given you peace. Responding might. Your question for this section is not comfortable, but you need to answer it honestly. In the last 7 days, how many times did you react to something in a way that made the situation worse? How many emails did you fire off that you regretted? How many sharp words did you say to someone you love? How many decisions did you make from exhaustion or fear? And how many of those could have been different if you had taken just 3 seconds before responding? 3 seconds. That's all that separates the version of you that hurts and the version of you that heals. Section 4. Building the morning ritual that SAVES. You let me be direct with you. If you do not build a deliberate morning ritual, you will default to the ritual you already have. And your current ritual is not neutral. It's not just not helping. It's actively harming you. Every minute you spend starting your day on someone else's terms is a minute you steal from your own life. You cannot get those minutes back. You cannot return to the beginning of the day and do it differently. The morning is non-negotiable. It happens whether you're ready or not. So the only question that matters is this: are you going to design it, or are you going to let it design you? A morning ritual is not a luxury for people who have extra time. It is a necessity for people who want to win. The most successful, most grounded, most resilient people you know all have one thing in common. They do not let the world dictate their first hour. They have a sequence, a routine, a set of actions that they perform almost automatically, and that sequence serves as a moat between them and the chaos. When you have a ritual, you don't have to decide what to do when you wake up. The decision is already made. You don't waste willpower on tiny choices like, do I check my phone or not? Because the ritual already says no. You don't negotiate with yourself about whether you'll meditate or exercise or journal, because those things are already scheduled into the architecture of your morning here. What a realistic, powerful morning ritual looks like for someone with a real life, a real job, real responsibilities. Not an Instagram influencer on a retreat. A human being who has to be somewhere at 8. This ritual takes 30 minutes. That's it. 2 episodes of a TV show you won't remember. 30 minutes. Wake up, sit up, feet on the floor. 1 minute of breathing, just feeling your body wake up. Then get up, drink a full glass of water. Your brain is dehydrated after sleep, and dehydration mimics anxiety. Water first. Then 5 minutes of movement, not a workout. Stretch, shake your body, do 10 jumping jacks, something that tells your nervous system we are safe and we are awake. Then 5 minutes of writing. 1 page, 3 sentences, whatever is in your head, get it out. Then 5 minutes of reading something that grows you. A page of a book, not a screen. Then 10 minutes of silence. No input, just you and your thoughts. Then you pick up your phone, that's the ritual. 30 minutes, you will tell me you don't have 30 minutes. And I will tell you that you do, because you are already spending those 30 minutes on unconscious habits. You're spending them scrolling. You're spending them hitting snooze. You're spending them rushing. The time exists. You're just using it badly. The difference between you and someone with a ritual isn't time, it's priority. You do what you prioritize. If you prioritize checking what happened while you were asleep, you will do that. If you prioritize your own nervous system, you will do that. No one is coming to make you prioritize yourself. No one is coming to build your ritual. That is your job, and you are qualified for it. You have a brain, you have a body, you have breath. That's enough. But let me address the resistance you're feeling right now. That voice in your head that says, I'm too tired, I'm not a morning person, this sounds boring, I'll start on Monday. That voice is not your friend. That voice is the guardian of your old life. That voice is terrified of what will happen if you actually follow through, because if you follow through, everything changes. And change is dangerous to the parts of you that have survived by staying small. So that voice will say anything to keep you in bed. It will tell you you need more rest. It will tell you you deserve to relax. It will tell you that tomorrow is a better day to start. And every time you listen, you strengthen that voice. Every time you don't, you weaken it. Here's the science of habit formation you need to understand. When you repeat a behavior in the same context, your brain forms a habit loop. Cue, routine, reward. The cue is waking up. Your current routine is reaching for your phone. The reward is dopamine from novelty. To change the habit, you keep the same cue but insert a different routine. Wake up, then immediately do your ritual. The reward will not feel as good at first. The reward from presence is subtle, quiet, and delayed. It doesn't scream like a notification. It whispers like a calm heart. But over time, as your brain learns that the new routine leads to a better state, the reward strengthens. This takes about 66 days of repetition. 66 mornings of choosing the hard thing before it becomes the easy thing. That's 2 months. In 2 months, you can fundamentally rewire your morning. In 2 months, you can become unrecognizable to the person you were yesterday. Your environment matters here more than you think. Your bedroom should support your ritual, not fight it. Put your phone across the room, not on your nightstand. Buy an actual alarm clock. Set out your water glass the night before. Lay out your clothes. Have your journal and pen ready. These small environmental changes reduce the friction of doing the right thing and increase the friction of doing the wrong thing. You don't need more willpower. You need better design. Every object in your space is either a trigger for the habit you want or a trigger for the habit you have. Choose your triggers deliberately. Your action step for this section is to write down your ritual, not in your head, on paper, right now. What time will you wake up? What will you do first, second, third? Be specific. I will wake up at 6:00 a.m. I will sit up and take 3 breaths. I will drink 1 glass of water. I will stretch for 5 minutes. I will write 3 sentences. I will read 2 pages of a book. I will sit in silence for 5 minutes. Then at 6:30 a.m. I will pick up my phone. Write it down. Put it on your nightstand. Read it before you sleep tonight. Your brain needs the instruction manual. You cannot expect yourself to remember what to do in the fog of waking up. Give yourself a script. Follow the script. The script is your freedom. Here's your question. If you knew with absolute certainty that this 30-minute ritual would double your energy, halve your anxiety, and make you more effective in every area of your life, would you do it? Of course you would. The problem is you don't know that with certainty. You doubt it. You've been disappointed before. You've tried things that didn't work. I understand, but here's what you're forgetting. The things that didn't work, you didn't do them consistently for 66 days. You tried them for 3 days, felt uncomfortable, and quit. That's not evidence that the ritual doesn't work. That's evidence that you quit. So try again. And this time, when the discomfort comes, recognize it as a sign that you're growing, not a sign that you should stop. Say this out loud. I'm no longer a passenger in my own morning. I am the driver, the map, and the destination. Section 5. The science of energy, not time. You keep saying you don't have enough time. That's not your problem. Your problem is you don't have enough energy. And energy is not about sleep. Energy is about alignment. When your actions, your values, and your attention are aligned, energy flows through you like a river. When they're misaligned, energy leaks out of you like a cracked pipe. You can have 12 hours of sleep and still feel exhausted if you spend your day doing things that don't matter to you, with people who drain you, while ignoring the whispers of your own soul. Exhaustion is not a sleep deficit. Exhaustion is a meaning deficit. You're tired because you're living someone else's life. Your brain has an energy budget. Every decision you make, every emotion you feel, every social interaction you navigate, every task you switch between, all of it consumes glucose and neural resources. And your brain is miserly. It wants to conserve energy wherever possible. That's why it defaults to habits. That's why it resists change. That's why you feel mentally exhausted after a day of back-to-back meetings or constant context switching. You haven't run a marathon. You've just made 1,000 tiny decisions that your brain had to process. And the biggest energy drain is not physical labor. It's emotional labor. Suppressing how you really feel. Performing positivity when you're hurting. Pretending to agree when you don't. Smiling through resentment. Your morning ritual is an energy investment. When you spend the first 30 minutes of your day regulating your nervous system, grounding your attention, and clarifying your intentions, you are not wasting time. You are banking energy. You are building a reserve that will carry you through the inevitable chaos of the day. Think of it as putting on armor before battle. You wouldn't walk into a fight without protection, but you walk into every day without protecting your nervous system, and then you wonder why you're bruised by noon. The email that would have crushed you becomes manageable. The difficult conversation becomes possible. The rejection that would have sent you into a spiral becomes a data point. Not because the world got easier, because you got stronger, because you started your day with energy instead of debt. Here's the specific science of your morning energy. Your body has a natural cortisol rhythm called the circadian cortisol awakening response. Cortisol peaks about 30 minutes after waking, which is why you feel alert and ready. But that cortisol can work for you or against you. If you wake up and immediately trigger a stress response by checking your phone or rushing, that cortisol spike becomes toxic. It floods your system and leaves you feeling wired but tired. If you wake up and move slowly, breathe deeply, and avoid stressors, that cortisol spike becomes energizing. It gives you clarity without anxiety. You cannot avoid the cortisol spike. It's biological, but you can shape what that cortisol binds to. Bind it to calm, get calm energy. Bind it to panic, get anxious exhaustion. Your morning light exposure is also critical. Within the first hour of waking, you need to get sunlight in your eyes, not through a window, outside. 10 minutes of natural light tells your brain to stop producing melatonin and start producing serotonin, the precursor to dopamine and the regulator of mood. Without that light exposure, your internal clock drifts, your mood drops, and your sleep that night suffers. This is not wellness advice. This is chronobiology. This is the study of how your body's internal rhythms interact with the environment. Ignore it, and you will feel off for reasons you cannot name. Follow it, and you will feel like someone turned the volume up on your life. Real-life application. Your job is demanding. Your family needs you. Your finances are tight. I know. I'm not asking you to pretend those pressures don't exist. I'm asking you to understand that those pressures will still exist whether you have energy or not. The only variable you can control is your capacity to handle them, and your capacity is directly proportional to how well you manage your energy. The person who wakes up, gets sunlight, moves their body, and regulates their breath is not avoiding reality. They are preparing for it. They are showing up to their own life armed and ready. The person who snoozes, scrolls, and stumbles is not lazy. They are under-resourced. Give yourself the resources. Your action step for this section is to identify your 3 biggest energy leaks. Write them down, not in your head, on paper. What situations, what people, what habits drain you more than they should? Be honest. Maybe it's checking work email before you've had coffee. Maybe it's the 10 minutes you spend on social media that always turn into 40. Maybe it's the person you text every morning who never texts back with the same energy. Maybe it's the news. Maybe it's the way you talk to yourself. Identify the leaks. Then for each leak, identify one small action to stop it. Put your phone in another room. Mute the notifications. Delete the app. Set a boundary with that person. Change the channel in your head. Small actions. Massive results. Here's your question. If energy is the currency of your life and you are currently spending it on things that drain you before you've even left your bedroom, what would it feel like to flip that spending? What would it feel like to wake up and spend your first energy on yourself, on your growth, on your peace? That feeling you just imagined, that's not fantasy. That's biochemistry waiting for your decision. Your brain is ready. Your body is ready. The only question is whether you are ready to stop treating your morning like a warm-up act for everyone else's show and start treating it like the main event of your own life. Say this out loud. I'm not here to survive my mornings. I am here to master them. And mastery begins today.